Captain Marcus Hale stood motionless on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes locked on the sleek emerald-green alien ship gliding toward them through the dark void. The vessel was a masterpiece of alien design, smooth curves, shimmering surfaces, and an air of arrogance that seemed to drip from its hull like liquid pride. It wasn't just here to talk diplomacy. No. This ship carried a message wrapped in condescension, and Marcus already knew what it was before the Council's so-called gift stepped aboard. When the airlock hissed open, she walked in like a living statue, her pale green skin catching the light and shimmering softly. Her eyes, large and swirling with iridescent colors, swept the room with calm confidence. Marcus's jaw clenched tight. She wasn't just any envoy. She was the Council's joke. A Verdani female sent as a cultural envoy, but really, a mock bride meant to embarrass him and his people in front of the whole galaxy. The idea was simple. The Verdani believed that humans and their species couldn't possibly be compatible, especially in intimacy. Sending her was meant to be a slap in the face, a reminder that humans were inferior, primitive, and unworthy of serious respect. And they expected Marcus to reject her, to cause a scene, to prove their point by embarrassing himself. But Marcus had no intention of playing their game. He stepped forward, extending his hand in the oldest human gesture of greeting. "Welcome aboard," he said, voice calm but firm. The alien woman, Scylla, paused, then allowed herself a small, knowing smile. "Captain Hale," she replied, her voice smooth and melodic. "I am here to serve as your cultural liaison, and as your bride." A ripple of surprise passed through the Resolute's crew. Marcus felt the weight of every eye on him, expecting hesitation or even outrage. Instead, he smiled. "Well, if you're here to embarrass me," he said lightly, "you'll have to try harder than that." Scylla's eyes glinted with amusement. She wasn't the fragile pawn the Council had hoped for. There was intelligence there, curiosity, and something else, a spark of defiance that told Marcus she wasn't going to be controlled or humiliated. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of respect, and maybe even something deeper. Their first days together were awkward. Scylla moved with the elegant grace of her people, her skin like smooth jade, but her manner was open, unguarded. Marcus was tall and broad-shouldered, his presence solid and reassuring. They shared stories of Earth's vast oceans and towering mountains, of humanity's long history of survival against the odds, of Verdani forests that whispered secrets through chemical signals. Scylla was fascinated by human culture, especially the way they touched, something rare among the Verdani, who kept their distance even in greetings. One evening, over a bottle of aged Earth whiskey, Scylla admitted her real reason for volunteering for this mission. "I want to understand humans," she said, her iridescent eyes fixed on Marcus. "Not just as an outsider, but from the inside. The Council sees you as reckless, primitive. I see something different." Marcus laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet room. "We might be reckless," he said with a wink, "but we've got our ways. And when it comes to certain advantages, humans tend to be a bit more well-equipped." Their conversation took a turn toward biology, intimacy, and the differences between their species. Scylla was blunt, curious, and surprisingly uninhibited. She wanted to know everything: the physical differences, the emotional connections, the rituals. Marcus found himself drawn to her not just because of her exotic beauty, but because of her mind and the way she challenged his own assumptions. When their hands brushed, a small but electric jolt passed between them. It was a touch that said more than words, a crossing of boundaries that neither had expected. Then their lips met, tentatively at first, testing, exploring. Scylla's skin was cool, but her kiss was warm, soft, and inviting. It was a moment that changed everything. For Marcus, it wasn't just a diplomatic mission anymore. It was personal. Behind the scenes, the Verdani Council continued to watch and plot, convinced that their plan would humiliate the humans and prove their superiority. But they didn't count on Scylla's growing admiration for Marcus. nor on the surprising biology of humans, how adaptable, resilient, and yes, physically gifted they were. As days passed, Sila's body began to show subtle changes, changes that defied the strict science the Verdani relied on. Marcus noticed the way her eyes sometimes shimmered brighter, how her movements became less restrained, more fluid. He suspected what the Council refused to admit. Humans were different, superior in ways the Verdani couldn't understand or control. What started as a joke was quickly becoming something powerful, something dangerous to the old order. Sila was no longer just a mock envoy. She was a bridge between two species, a symbol of a future neither side had dared to imagine. And Marcus, he was ready to protect her no matter the cost. In the vastness of space, among stars that had witnessed countless battles and alliances, a new story was beginning. One of connection, discovery, and undeniable attraction. The Verdani had sent a joke. Instead, they had unleashed a storm. Marcus looked at Sila, her eyes reflecting the distant stars, and thought quietly to himself. They had no idea what they'd started. But he was ready to prove to the galaxy, and to them, that humans were more than capable of rising to the challenge, especially when it came to matters of the heart. And beyond. Marcus led Sila through the gleaming corridors of the Resolute, his every step steady but his mind racing. The Verdani Council had expected humiliation, a grand spectacle of rejection and scorn. Instead, they had unwittingly handed him a puzzle wrapped in shimmering green skin and eyes that shifted like liquid jewels. Sila was not the fragile trophy they'd planned. She was something else entirely. Something that challenged every assumption they held about humans and their place in the galaxy. Sila moved with effortless grace, her every step measured, but there was a spark of something unfamiliar in her, an openness, a quiet curiosity that Marcus found refreshing after years of stiff diplomatic encounters. "Tell me," he said as they settled in the ship's observation lounge, the stars stretching endlessly beyond the viewport. "What made you volunteer for this unusual assignment?" "Surely you didn't think this would be easy," she smiled, a slow, enigmatic curve of her lips. "The Council sees humans as reckless, impulsive, primitive. They believe we are too refined, too perfect to be compatible with your kind. I wanted to understand why. I wanted to see if their assumptions were true, and perhaps," her eyes locked onto his, "to find something unexpected." Marcus chuckled softly. "Well, you found me, and I have to admit I'm not your typical human specimen. We're a complicated species." She laughed then, a sound, like wind chimes stirred by a gentle breeze. "Complicated is a good word." She glanced at the whiskey bottle between them. "And I've discovered your species has a fascinating relationship with this liquid courage." The evening unfolded with unexpected ease. Marcus shared stories of Earth, its vast oceans, towering mountains, and relentless spirit. He spoke of humanity's history, of survival through wars, plagues, and cosmic storms. Sila responded with tales of Verdani forests where trees communicated, in whispers of scent, of art that changed colors with the viewer's emotions, and of ancient rituals that bound their society. Between stories, they studied each other with growing interest, learning not just facts but the rhythms and pulses of two very different lives. One moment lingered in Marcus's mind long after the whiskey was gone. Sila observed human greetings, noting how often touch played a role, hands on shoulders, quick embraces, even kisses on cheeks. "In Verdani culture, touch is reserved for the closest bonds," she explained. "It is intimate, sacred. Your casual touch? It is bold." Marcus smiled. "We like to keep things honest. When we touch, it means something." He reached out, brushing a stray silver braid from her face. "I promise to be honest with you." Their hands met, fingers intertwining almost instinctively. The contact sent a warmth through Marcus that surprised him. Sila did not pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, her iridescent eyes searching his with a question unspoken but understood. Curiosity deepened into something more tangible when Sila asked, "Tell me about your mating rituals." Marcus blinked, caught off guard by the directness. He grinned, deciding honesty was best. "Well, we don't have formal rituals like your people, but we're passionate, and humans tend to be, well endowed. It's a bit of an advantage." Sila raised an eyebrow, amused and intrigued. "That much I noticed. The Council has always claimed genetic incompatibility between us, but I suspect they underestimated human biology." Their conversations grew more personal as the days passed. Sila shared that she was a xenoanthropologist, dedicated to studying alien cultures through immersive experience. Marcus admired her bravery, volunteering to live among those she was expected to disdain. But beneath the growing warmth and laughter, tension simmered. Marcus sensed the Council's eyes watching them through every comm link, every sensor. Their mission was a tightrope walk between diplomacy and defiance. Sila confided that the Council expected her to fail, to be rejected, to bring shame. Instead, she found herself torn between loyalty to her people and a growing respect, even affection for this human. One evening, Sila woke in the ship's quarters feeling dizzy and oddly unsettled. Marcus found her sitting on the edge of the bed, her hand resting on her abdomen. "Something's happening," she said quietly, fear flickering in her eyes. Marcus took her hand gently. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Unbeknownst to them, the Verdani medical scans back on their homeworld had detected something unprecedented, physiological changes in Sila's body that defied all known science. A hybrid pregnancy thought impossible was quietly unfolding. The joke the Council sent to mock humanity was becoming a miracle that might reshape two civilizations. And Marcus? He realized this was no longer just a mission. It was the beginning of something that would test his courage, his heart, and his belief in what humanity could achieve. In the silence of the Resolute, as stars whispered ancient secrets outside, Marcus and Sila looked toward a future neither could yet fully understand, but both were eager to explore. The nights aboard the Resolute grew longer, filled with a quiet intensity neither Marcus nor Sila had expected when their journey began. Their days were filled with formal meetings and guarded smiles for the crew, but once the ship's corridors emptied and the hum of the engines softened, a different kind of conversation took hold. One wrapped in curiosity, discovery, and a kind of closeness that defied the cold vacuum outside. One evening, as the ship drifted silently through a distant star system, Marcus poured 2 glasses of Earth whiskey and handed one to Sila. She cradled the glass delicately, her pale green fingers contrasting against the amber liquid. "Your species values this drink greatly," she mused, swirling the whiskey thoughtfully. "It seems to lower barriers, makes honesty easier." Marcus grinned. "It does that, and sometimes it leads to revelations you didn't expect." He took a slow sip, then met her shimmering gaze. "Like the fact that humans have a few biological perks that might surprise the Verdani Council." Sila arched a slender eyebrow. "Such as?" "Well," Marcus began, leaning back in his chair with a roguish smile, "for starters, humans tend to be well endowed." He gave a playful wink. "It's not just size, but endurance, passion, and a certain versatility." Sila laughed softly, a sound that was both musical and teasing. "I've noticed. The Council's insistence on genetic incompatibility may have overlooked some rather important factors." The conversation turned to biology, not just the cold facts but the poetry of physiology. Sila shared how Verdani were delicate and reserved, their reproductive cycles carefully controlled and tied to ancient customs. Touch was sacred, and intimacy was often a slow, ritualized dance. Humans, by contrast, were bold and impulsive, embracing physical connection as an essential language. "I find it fascinating," Sila said, tracing patterns on the armrest with her fingers. "How your bodies communicate through touch, scent, even subtle shifts in expression. It's very different from Verdani ways, yet it carries its own kind of power." Marcus reached out, his hand brushing hers lightly. We humans believe that physical connection can break down walls, build trust faster than words ever could, and sometimes it just feels right. Their fingers intertwined, the contact electric and grounding all at once. Sila didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, her iridescent eyes reflecting the soft light of the observation deck. "Tell me more," she whispered, "about your mating rituals. The council claims we cannot produce offspring together, but I suspect they're wrong." Marcus chuckled, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. "Well, it's not exactly a ritual, more like a dance of desire and connection, and humans aren't shy about expressing what they want." Sila's gaze was direct, unflinching. "Is that what drew you to me? The novelty? Or something deeper?" Marcus's smile softened. "It started with curiosity, sure, but it quickly became something more. You're unlike anyone I've ever met, not just because you're from another world, but because you challenge me. You see me, not just as a human or a commander, but as someone worth knowing." The moment stretched. Between them, charged with possibility. Sila's hand moved to rest lightly on Marcus's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Your biology is remarkable," she said, voice low. "I believe our species can be more compatible than the council allows." Days passed, and their bond deepened in ways neither expected. Sila's scientific mind raced with data and questions, but her heart quietly claimed space beside Marcus's. She confessed to him that her body was changing in subtle ways, unexpected shifts that baffled even her. Marcus noticed the way her movements grew freer, how her eyes sometimes shimmered brighter under the ship's lights. One night, alone in his quarters, Sila revealed the truth. She was pregnant. Her voice trembled with a mix of fear and awe as she showed Marcus the data, biological evidence that defied everything Verdani science claimed impossible. Marcus's hand found hers, fingers curling protectively around her slender wrist. "We're in this together," he promised. "No matter what happens, we'll face it side by side." The weight of their secret settled over them like a quiet storm. The Verdani Council's joke had become a miracle, one that could shatter old beliefs and forge a new future. Marcus realized that what began as a mission of diplomacy was now a journey of love, resilience, and rebellion against prejudice. In the shadows of space, under the watchful eyes of stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of empires, Marcus and Sila embraced the unknown. Together they were rewriting the rules, not just for their species but for the galaxy itself. The revelation hit Marcus like a solar flare, unexpected, intense, and impossible to ignore. Sila was pregnant, not just any pregnancy, but one that defied centuries of Verdani science and the cold calculations of the galactic political game. The news transformed everything. At first, Sila's body betrayed subtle hints, moments of dizziness, waves of nausea she tried to mask behind serene smiles. Marcus noticed the way she paused before rising, the way her iridescent eyes sometimes shimmered with a strange light. His military training urged caution, but his heart demanded tenderness. This was no longer a diplomatic liaison or a mock bride. She was carrying something extraordinary, their child. Behind closed doors in the ship's medical bay, Marcus and Sila met with Dr. Kara Voss, the Resolute's chief medical officer. Kara was brilliant, discreet, and accustomed to strange cases in humanity's far-flung frontier colonies, but even she looked baffled as she studied Sila's scans. "Her physiology is adapting on a cellular level," Kara said, voice low with awe. "The genetic markers show clear signs of hybridization. This is unprecedented." Sila's eyes shimmered with a mixture of hope and fear. The Verdani Council will never allow this to be known. They see humans as biologically inferior, and this child threatens everything they believe. Marcus felt the weight of her words like gravity pulling him down. If the council discovered Sila's condition, the consequences could be catastrophic. For her, for the child, for the fragile diplomatic truce between their peoples. But Marcus was no stranger to impossible odds. "We protect her," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes." Back on the Resolute, the atmosphere thickened with secrecy and tension. The ship's corridors, once filled with casual chatter and camaraderie, became hushed. Scylla spent more time resting, her graceful movements slowed by changes her body struggled to comprehend. Marcus remained by her side, his presence a quiet shield against the mounting storm. One evening, as the ship sailed through a nebula of swirling violet gas, Scylla confided in Marcus her fears. "If the Council finds out, they will recall me. Or worse. They might see this child as a threat to Verdani purity. I could be labeled a traitor." Marcus's hand tightened around hers. "Then we'll make sure they never get the chance. We'll find allies, create a defense. This child is proof that our species can be stronger together, not divided." Their private moments grew more precious, the connection between them deepening beyond words. Scylla's laughter returned, brighter and more frequent, fueled by the knowledge that she was not alone. Marcus taught her about human customs, simple things like holding hands, sharing warmth, and the quiet comfort of being together. In turn, Scylla shared Verdani rituals, how their society celebrated bonds and births with reverence and ceremony. Marcus listened, fascinated by the delicate balance of tradition and change. But the Council was not idle. Unbeknownst to them, a Verdani delegation aboard the Resolute began to notice irregularities. Sensor logs showed unexplained medical readings. Surveillance, once polite and distant, grew intrusive. Marcus convened a small, trusted team, Dr. Voss, Lieutenant Mara Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, and Chief Engineer Raj Patel, to devise a plan. They worked tirelessly, fabricating false medical records and rerouting sensor data. Every step was a gamble, but the crew's loyalty was unwavering. Scylla's quarters were modified subtly to accommodate her changing physiology. Soft lighting, humidity controls, and medical monitoring blended seamlessly with her personal effects. Privacy was paramount, but so was readiness for any sudden crisis. Throughout it all, Scylla remained resolute. "I will not be a pawn," Xiao declared one night, her hand resting protectively over her abdomen. "This child is a symbol and of hope, of change. I want to face whatever comes with strength." Marcus admired her courage and felt a fierce protectiveness rise within him. "And you won't face it alone." As the Resolute charted a course toward the galactic summit, a gathering of species where their secret might finally be revealed or crushed, the stakes soared higher than ever. Alliances would be tested, prejudices confronted, and hearts laid bare. But for Marcus and Scylla, the future was no longer defined by fear or duty. It was shaped by love, a force as boundless and mysterious as the stars themselves. The atmosphere aboard the Resolute shifted like a delicate dance, every move calculated, every word measured. Marcus Hale knew the Verdani Council's suspicion was no idle threat. Surveillance drones, subtle sensor scans, and whispered conversations between the Verdani delegates made it clear the Council was closing in. Their gift had become a liability they wanted to erase quietly and quickly. In the command center, Marcus gathered his inner circle. Dr. Kara Voss, with her sharp intellect and steady hands. Lieutenant Mara Chen, the xenobiologist who understood alien physiology like few others. And Chief Engineer Raj Patel, the man who could bend technology to their will. Each knew the stakes. Each understood the secret they guarded was no ordinary one. It was a fragile seed that could either bloom into a new era or be crushed under the weight of ancient prejudice. "We need a comprehensive plan," Marcus began, eyes steely with resolve. "The Council suspects Scylla's condition. They'll push for her recall. We have to protect her and the child at all costs." Dr. Voss nodded, her tone calm but urgent. "I've been working on modifying the medical logs. We'll create a plausible cover, environmental adjustment treatments, stress relief therapy, nothing that raises red flags. But we'll need to monitor Scylla's condition constantly." Mara leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Scylla's body is adapting in ways we've never seen. The genetic translator protein in her cells allows her to accommodate human DNA. It's revolutionary but volatile. We can't predict how her physiology will respond long-term. Raj smiled wryly, rubbing his grease-streaked hands together. If things go south, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. Modified stealth tech, emergency extraction shuttles, and encrypted comms. If we have to disappear, we vanish without a trace. Marcus allowed himself a brief, grim smile. Good. We'll need all of it. Mara, I want daily reports on Sila's condition. Kara, keep her under medical supervision but maintain strict confidentiality. Raj, make sure the modifications are seamless. No council drones sniffing out our cover. As the team dispersed, Marcus stayed behind a moment longer, gazing at the viewport where stars twinkled indifferently. The galaxy was vast, yet here he was, fighting for a secret that could change everything. Later, in the privacy of his quarters, Sila sat quietly, the weight of their conspiracy settling around her. Like a second skin, Marcus entered carrying 2 steaming cups of synthesized tea. He handed one to her and sat beside her, careful not to crowd. How are you holding up? He asked softly. Sila smiled faintly, fingers tracing the rim of her cup. Fearful, but hopeful. I never imagined my mission would lead here, carrying the future between us. It terrifies me that the council might see our child as a threat. Marcus took her hand, his grip steady. They don't understand that what threatens them is not a child, but change. And sometimes, change needs a guardian. She looked up, eyes glistening with unshed tears. You are that guardian. Their moments together grew precious and rare. Marcus introduced Sila to human traditions, simple acts like holding hands in public, sharing quiet meals, and the warmth of a protective embrace. She, in turn, taught him about Verdani customs, the sacred significance of birth, the intricate rituals that celebrated life and union. Together they navigated 2 worlds, blending ancient rites with new hopes. One afternoon, while studying ancient Verdani texts projected in the ship's library, Sila paused, her voice soft. If our child is to be born under Verdani tradition, there will be challenges. The Council's acceptance is conditional. They demand the birth happen on home soil, with strict adherence to custom. Marcus nodded. Then we prepare for that. We'll make sure you have everything you need, and that our child is welcomed, not shunned. The Resolute's course was set for the Galactic Summit on Proxima Station, where representatives from countless species would gather. It was the perfect stage to reveal their discovery and seek allies. But it was also a gauntlet of political intrigue, suspicion, and potential betrayal. Marcus and Sila knew the path ahead was fraught with danger. The Council's forces would be watching. Enemies lurked in shadows. Yet, in the quiet moments, when the hum of the ship was the only sound, they found strength in each other. As Sila rested in the modified quarters, Marcus stood watch outside, his mind racing. The child they carried was more than a symbol. It was a beacon, a promise that the galaxy could move beyond fear and prejudice. No matter what came next, Marcus vowed silently, they would face it together, for Sila, for their child, for a future written not by old fears but by courage and love. The Resolute hummed quietly as it approached Proxima Station, a sprawling hub where thousands of species mingled in a dizzying display of alien cultures, languages, and politics. For Marcus Hale and Sila, this was the moment their secret might finally come to light, a moment filled with hope, fear, and the possibility of rewriting the galaxy's understanding of life itself. The Galactic Summit was a spectacle. Delegates from countless worlds gathered in vast halls, their varied forms and customs weaving a vibrant tapestry of interstellar diplomacy. Marcus felt the weight of every gaze, every whispered speculation as he and Sila moved through the corridors. The Verdani Council had sent their own representatives, stern, calculating, and undoubtedly watching. But Sila was no longer the fragile envoy they had sent as a mockery. She moved with quiet dignity, her silvery hair cascading over her shoulders, her pale green skin glowing softly under the station's lights. Her eyes, now filled with the profound knowledge of the life growing inside her, reflected a strength born of defiance and hope. Marcus led her to the chamber where the announcement would be made. The room was packed. Scientists, diplomats, xenobiologists, and military officials from across the galaxy. The air buzzed with anticipation. Dr. Kara Voss stepped forward first, her voice steady and clear. Esteemed delegates, today we present findings that challenge long-held beliefs about species compatibility. The hybrid child growing within Scylla represents a biological breakthrough made possible by an adaptive protein complex her cells have produced, a genetic translator that allows integration of human DNA with Verdani biology. Murmurs swept the room. Skepticism, excitement, disbelief. The council's own scientists shifted uneasily. Scylla then took the floor, her voice carrying the melodic cadence of her people. I was sent as a symbol of failure, a political joke. Instead, I return bearing hope. This child is not an aberration but a bridge, a living testament to what can be achieved when species choose understanding over fear. Marcus stepped forward, his military bearing commanding attention. The Terran Alliance supports this union fully. We see in this child the future, a future where species rise above prejudice, where biology is no barrier to connection. The council chamber erupted into debate. Voices rose, some condemning the union as a threat to tradition, others recognizing the scientific and diplomatic potential. Elder Narin, a respected Verdani scholar known for her progressive views, spoke with quiet authority. This discovery forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, she said. Our belief in genetic purity has blinded us to the strength and adaptability. We must embrace this evolution, not fear it. After hours of deliberation, the verdict was announced. The union was formally recognized, the child granted full rights within both species. Scylla would return to Verdani homeworld for the birth, under the watchful eyes of the council, but with Marcus and trusted allies by her side. Relief and cautious optimism swept through the Resolute. The victory was hard-won but significant, a turning point that could change galactic relations forever. In the days that followed, preparations were made for the journey home. Scylla trained in ancient Verdani rituals, blending them with Marcus's teachings of human resilience and love. The ship's crew rallied, ready to protect their captain and his bride against any who would seek to undermine this fragile peace. On the observation deck, under the blanket of stars, Marcus and Scylla shared a quiet moment. Her hand rested gently on her growing abdomen, the future held softly within. We've crossed a threshold, Marcus said softly. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Scylla smiled, eyes shimmering with hope. Together. As the Resolute prepared to depart for Verdani, carrying with it not just a ship and crew but the promise of unity, Marcus knew their journey was far from over. But with love as their compass, they would navigate whatever darkness lay ahead. The day Scylla and Marcus arrived on the Verdani homeworld felt like stepping into a dream bathed in hues of red and gold, the sky a swirling canvas of alien sunsets, the air thick with fragrant blossoms unknown to any Earth garden. Yet beneath the beauty, tension hung heavy like the weight of countless expectations. Scylla's pregnancy had advanced quickly, and the time of birth drew near. The Verdani Council's acceptance came with conditions. Tradition must be honored, and the child, born amidst their people's ancient rituals. Marcus understood the gravity. This was more than ceremony. It was a test of their union's legitimacy. The palace where they stayed was an imposing structure of polished stone and flowing curves, designed to inspire reverence. Scylla's quarters were lavish, yet she remained restless, torn between joy and uncertainty. Marcus stayed close, ever her steadfast guardian, learning the subtleties of Verdani customs, ceremonial dances, sacred chants, and the reverent silence that accompanied every step. When labor began, the council's healers prepared a special birthing chamber filled with ambient light and the gentle hum of ancient Verdani instruments. Sila's body, though changed and adapting, responded with the strength and resilience Marcus had come to admire. He held her hand through every wave of pain, whispering encouragements and promises that transcended words. Hours later, a cry pierced the chamber, a sound both foreign and beautiful. Their daughter Mira was born. Her skin a pale green shimmered with hints of Marcus's warm earth tones. Her eyes, hazel and deep, mirrored both her father and mother, a living testament to unity. As the council gathered to witness the birth, a hush fell over the chamber, for many old prejudices struggled against the undeniable truth before them. A new life, bridging worlds, defying the barriers that had divided species for centuries. Elder Naren stepped forward, placing a hand on Sila's shoulder. This child Mira is not just a symbol but a promise, that our differences can be celebrated, that life finds a way beyond fear. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes as he looked upon his daughter, the embodiment of hope, courage, and love. In the weeks that followed, political ripples spread across the galaxy. The story of Sila and Marcus became legend, tales of the joke bride who defied expectations and bore the first human Verdani child, a beacon of possibility in a universe too often divided. At diplomatic gatherings, Mira's laughter echoed through the halls, a reminder that new generations could forge paths beyond old grudges. Sila and Marcus continued their work, championing scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, and the profound bonds that come from understanding. Years later, standing hand in hand on the observation deck of the Resolute, Marcus watched Mira chase stars in the distance, her silvery hair catching the alien light. "She's the best kind of disruption," he said, voice filled with pride. Sila smiled, leaning against him. A bridge between worlds, a spark of the future. Their journey had begun as a political prank, a test of humanity's limits. But it ended as a story of love, resilience, and the extraordinary power of connection. And somewhere, amid the stars, the universe itself seemed to laugh. Because sometimes, the best jokes are the ones that change everything.